Yo, what's up boys? It's Betta here with my Buzzsaw Spectral Helix Champion League starter for 3.19 Lake of Kalandra. This build is an absolute beast as it takes off right from level 12, where you can use Spectral Helix into maps with a bare minimum of around about 50 chaos budget to be completing T16s comfortably that can be later upgraded to become truly unethical and complete any content which you face. For an example of just how unethical this really is, the footage that you have been watching is clearing into T12 maps with all of the gems only being level 1, and of course with realistic starter gear that's not bullshitted in any way. So, the idea behind the build is to take advantage of the defensive capabilities that the champion Ascendancy gives, being permanent fortify and stun immunity as well, in order for us to be tanky and deliver crazy amounts of elemental damage, giving us our relaxed, speedy playstyle thanks to the use of Trinity, our critical strike chance, and multiplier, but more so that we also take advantage of the Nightblade support for the elusive buff, which pushes not only our defenses even higher, but our crit multi to well over 700%. We then pair this with permanent onslaught, which has increased effect and huge amounts of armor and evasion rating too, that gives even more damage via the Perseverance belt. To counter spell damage, acquiring 100% spell suppression is easy via the skill tree and gear to ensure our mapping and our bossing goes way smoother. Now that we have the basic breakdown of defenses and offenses, if you are not yet familiar with the skill, you will throw a copy of your weapon that spirals around in a locked position from where you used it, dealing damage to enemies it comes in contact with every 0.3 seconds, and at most you will get around about 3 hits on a single enemy per blade during its entire spiraling cycle. Of course, on bosses that have large hitboxes such as Katava, you could realistically get up to around about 5 hits or so. Due to us also having a shitload of attack speed, you can stack up the blades to deliver insane amounts of damage. However, if you have not yet used the skill before, it will feel clunky and weird. But I do assure you that it begins to feel much more fun, especially because you can just throw a blade or 2 out per pack and continue to the next, knowing that the Helix will spiral around to clear whatever remains behind you. It's almost kind of like Blade Vortex in a way, except it remains locked in place while piercing all enemies, and it also bounces off terrain, so investing into extra projectiles only makes it bounce around more, which is pretty much useless unless you have walls to abuse. So, should this Helixing champion appeal to you, or you maybe enjoy my content, then don't forget to drop a like and smack that subscribe button and ring the bell to stay updated on my latest videos and live streams that I do right here on YouTube. Don't forget to join my community Discord for any help or information that you may seek. Links are down below in the description for you. Right, so moving on to the path of building here just real quick. Underneath the notes section, you will find that I've broken down each of the acts from Act 1 all the way through until Act 4, with which skill gems you should be using along with their supports as well. And then also for when you should transition over to claws when you hit Act 9, which of course is up to you, however you feel. Also just do want to note that you should be using two-handed swords or axes all the way from Act 1 up until Act 9, as their base damage is a lot larger until you're around about level 60, whereby claws and the LE damage starts to pick up really well. In the notes, I've also got your ideal lab times when you should be doing your labs, along with your gear priority too, of course in order of priority. And then from there on, once you've acquired those gear pieces, then I've also got a end game path of building for you. And yeah, let's just jump into the skill tree. In the path of building, I've got each act broken down for you. So early in Act 1, you'll want to go for Destroyer for the two-handed weapon damage, along with Fury Bolts for the projectile speed and projectile damage. Then once into Act 2, we will be picking up Freedom of Movement, which gives phasing, so you are a lot quicker, along with Onslaught 2, that way we don't have to run an Onslaught gem at all, which is really helpful. Then of course we just pick up some Laugh and Precise Technique. I just do want to note that with Precise Technique, you should be running Precision in order for your accuracy rating to remain higher than your maximum Laugh. And then also you will want to pick up Long Shot, as you gain extra projectile speed, but more so for the extra projectile damage. And then of course your projectile mastery over here, giving 20% increased damage per enemy pierced, which really does help out to speed through the acts a little quicker. Then of course we'll go ahead and pick up Herbalism for some more Laugh, and then start speccing through into Spell Suppression by Act 4, and then some more Laugh and Spell Suppression going into Act 5 here. And then once you're going into Act 6, you'll want to pick up Charisma for reduced mana reservation. This is in order to run your Determination and Precision along with your Defiance banner as well, which I do just want to note that Defiance banner won't be using any mana, so you could also probably get away with maybe fitting in a Herald if you would like from Act 3-2. It's entirely up to you. And then moving on to Act 7, you'll want to start picking up Inveterate for even more spell suppression. This is a good time to start getting spell suppression, because we'll start encountering more and more spells from here on through into maps. And of course we pick up Blood Drinker for the 2% of life recovery on kill and some extra Laugh. Going into Act 8, you'll want to pick up Depth Perception along with Accuracy and Mastery. This is so that Precision has got increased mana reservation efficiency, just to free up some more mana and make it a bit more comfortable. And then of course from here on, going into Act 9, you want to start speccing into your Claw Mastery. As soon as you hit Act 9, you'll want to have the entire Claw Mastery node here, along with your Nightblade increased effect of Elusive, along with the From Shadows, notable here too, for the increased Elusive effect as well. This way you can start investing into critical strike chance and so forth. And then I do just want to note that you should be dropping Precise Technique by now, along with Destroyer as well, as these nodes will no longer benefit you in any way whatsoever. Then moving over into Act 10, of course, is when we sort of just start filling out things on the tree as well, such as getting Revenge of the Hunted over here for the extra suppression and Grace mana reservation efficiency. From here is when you should be running your Grace, Determination and Precision together along with your Defiance banner. And then I also have a yellow to red maps over here. I do just want to note as well that should you need any intelligence or strength, that you should make use of the skill tree via Thieves Craft, Prowess, or Beef and Wisdom on the Glade too. And so from Act 10, what you'll want to do is come over here and pick up your Life Raker, so you can pick up the Blind Mastery, so you can blind enemies on critical strike. And then of course you're going to end up dropping your Freedom of Movement and that over here, and Repath down here. So then you can pick up Entrench for extra spell suppression, and then of course pick up your Lethality while dropping the long shot nodes over here, just for that extra critical strike chance and critical multiplier, which is huge. And then of course, as an extra damage basis, we pick up Marked for Death. So we have Culling Strike and the 10% chance to gain a frenzy charge when you hit your marked enemy. This is for when you are killing bosses in maps. Right, so then just quickly moving over to the Ascendancy. Of course, your very first Ascendancy that you do want to pick up will be Inspirational. This gives increased effect of non-curse aura skills. This is for all 4 of your auras, which is really good. And then of course your banner skills have no reservation. This is really good to fit in Defiance banner. And then going into Cruel and Merciless Lab, which should be done before killing Katava in Act 10 or after, but then you'll have to of course get your resistances capped and so forth. But you'll pick up Unstoppable Hero for the increased attack speed, armor and evasion, and then cannot be stunned, which is huge quality of life in the build, along with our 20 fortification stacks, which gives us 20% less damage taken from all sources. This is, of course, physical, you know, chaos damage, and of course spells too. And then, of course, for our very last lab, you'll want to pick up First to Strike, Lost 4. This permanently, this allows us to permanently intimidate enemies, giving an extra 10% attack damage. And then, of course, when we hit low life, which is 50% life or below, then you will gain Adrenaline for 20 seconds. This gives you 100% increased attack damage and increased attack and movement speed as well, along with an additional 10% physical damage reduction. Plus, it removes all ailments, and as you can see, all ailments are bleeding, ignite, scorched, chilled, frozen, brittle, shocked, sapped, and poisoned. This is a huge quality of life, and it helps us remain topped up, especially when maps tend to get really crazy. Right, so just moving over to our Pantheon real quick here, you'll want to take Soul of Arakali for the reduced damage taken from damage over time, the increased recovery of life and energy shield after you stop taking damage over time recently, and more so for the debuffs on you expire 20% faster, and then of course the 40% chaos resistance against damage of time. Obviously, capturing the other 3 of them is not really that necessary early on, but they really do help out later on, especially into T16 maps. And then of course for the mana, you have to go with Soul of Garakan for the cannot be blinded and cannot be maimed. Also, the reduced effects of shock on you is helpful early on until you get full ailment immunity. And then I also just want to mention that in terms of the bandits, you will want to kill all of the bandits for the extra 2 skill points, which really does help out. Right, so then moving over onto our gear just real quick. So I've got a 300 LE DPS claw here with high critical strike chance. Of course, what you should look for when you're looking for a claw is for one that has either an open prefix or a suffix, so that you can craft on any extra elemental damage or attack speed or even critical strike chance. But you should prioritize a claw that has got critical strike chance and of course life gained on hit on it, and not the leech implicit. Then moving over to our helmet just real quick, you'll want one with just armor and evasion rating and a little bit of resistance and life, of course. The increased global accuracy rating is somewhat helpful. You can also get that on rings if you want. For the amulet, for your anointment, very important, you'll want Panopticon. This gives the increased effect of your Ancestral Protector, giving even more melee attack speed. This helps us out a lot, especially on boss fights. And then of course what you must look for on your amulet will be intelligence and strength. Getting extra intelligence on it is huge, as we do have about 130 intelligence requirements, and it is pretty difficult to get intelligence. Of course you can use your skill tree, and then what you want to look for is any multiplier and life on it, or critical strike chance, and vice versa. You can just craft on critical strike chance or multiplier, however you see fit. You should probably look for ones that have open prefixes to do so. I mean suffixes, yes. Alright, and then for your shield, you'll want one with just a little bit of suppression on it, and once again some life of course, and then a little bit of elemental resistance just to bring your cap up there. Let me just open this up, there we go. And then for your boots, you'll want to have any resistances as well, with decent amounts of life, and then any movement speed. Movement speed is not really that necessary, as we are pretty quick while being elusive. We are pretty much a crazy speedy boy, but of course not ridiculously speedy. And then moving over to the belt, you'll want to pick up Perseverance for the 1% increased attack damage per 200 of the lowest of armor and evasion rating. What this does is that it will give you a 1% increased attack damage, right? For whichever is highest. Oh no, whichever is lowest. So in this case, our armor is the lowest. However, when you use your Granite Flask, it will of course balance out, and this gives about a 30% extra damage increase. which is really cool. And then of course on top of this you'll have permanent onslaught, which is very well paired with our graceful assault here for the increased effect of onslaughts. And then moving over to the gloves, you'll want just a little bit of spell suppression here as well, just to make sure that you are spell suppressed capped. And then of course any life and resistances are really helpful here too. You can also get global accuracy rating or even attack speed early on, pretty much anything that you can find. And then moving on to the rings, you'll want life of course, with some strength or intelligence just to fill up your attribute requirements. And a little bit of resistance as well. Same goes for the other ring too. Pretty much basic here, just life and resistances. And then of course for the body armor you can use a tabula rasa early on. This will get you all the way through until T16 maps, no problem. And you can of course replace this with another body armor that's got high life and some resistances too. It'll be pretty solid. You can also craft on elemental to avoid elemental ailments, along with using an essence on your boots as well for the avoid ailments. And then of course you can also get avoid ailments on your shield, but that's for later on down the line. To counter being frozen, of course, we use a diamond flask for the extra critical strike chance, as early on our crit chance is not as high as it should be. And then of course you should have immunity to freeze. You can basically have immunity to freeze on either of your flasks. The same with poison over here, and immunity to corrupting blood and the reduced effect of curses too. But in terms of the other three flasks, you'll want the quartz flask for phasing. Phasing is very helpful for you to run through enemies so you don't get stuck in like awkward positions. And then of course the granite flask to raise our armor. And then the quicksilver is pretty much questionable. This is just to be a little bit more speedy. And then of course on your divine life flask you can have an instant or just a normal one. It's entirely up to you. And then having immunity to ignite on it is pretty comfy too. And then just moving over to the skill gems real quick, we make use of whirling blades linked to faster attacks. Of course this is just to get around. And then our ancestral protector, as I mentioned, for the more attack speed, which is well paired with our panopticon anointment. And then of course our defiance banner for the increased armor and evasion rating. Obviously this is getting nerfed going into 3.19, but it isn't a massive difference because we have the increased effects from our champion ascendancy, which kind of balances it out. And then your determination aura for the huge amounts of extra armor. And then you'll want to use mark on hit linked to assassin's mark. This is for the extra critical strike chance and multiplier on bosses. And also when you encounter rares in maps too, it also just helps out to basically gun them down. And then we also make use of grace for the high amount of evasion rating. And then blood rage, of course, which gives extra attack speed, but more so giving us frenzy charges while we are mapping, just to give us the more damage and the extra attack speed as well, which makes a really big difference. And then of course is our precision here, which gives increased critical strike chance and a high amount of accuracy. This enables us to have a 100% chance to hit, which is very important with Spectral Helix. And then we of course have a Molten Shell or a Vol Molten Shell in this instance, linked to cast when damage taken support. Your cast when damage taken support should be level 15 along with a level 16 Molten Shell. I found this is the perfect balance. And then your Withering Step, which you must always have on your left click. The reason why we make use of Withering Step is that it continuously refreshes elusive on us. So our elusive duration is always maximized the entire time. And then of course increased duration for the Molten Shell and Withering Step, just a little bit there. And then lastly, considering that there was the change to how Divine Blessing and Life Tap works, right? So previously in 3.18 I was running Anger linked to Divine Blessing, Life Tap and increased duration. However, this interaction has been removed. So for the time being, I have found that if you use Tornado, linked to power charge on crit and combustion, along with your Hydrosphere. This inflicts exposure and also deals an extra amount of damage for bossing, just to sort of make up somewhat on the damage loss. Right, and then lastly is just for our main link, being our damage dealer, which of course is Spectral Helix, which is then linked to Nightblade, which gives us our increased critical strike chance and crit multi while we are elusive. It also gives increased effects of elusive too, which is huge damage for the build, along with our Trinity support as well, whereby we gain more elemental damage. I also just do want to note that you should try and balance out in having a decent amount of cold damage and fire damage as well. You don't want to have too much of only, say for instance, lightning damage or fire damage and like no cold damage, because then it's not going to work. It also gives a little bit of LE penetration as well, which helps us out a lot, especially when it's paired with our combustion and our Hydrosphere exposure. And then of course our inspiration, which gives us increased critical strike chance, and when we're on 5 charges it gives a significant amount of course. And then moving on is elemental damage with attacks. This gives more elemental damage overall, further increasing the amount of LE damage that we are dealing. And then I use a added lightning damage support for the extra lightning damage, making for even more potent shocks on enemies. Otherwise, that is everything. Should you guys obviously need help with the build, then don't forget to come on along and join my Discord. The link is down below in the description, along with the path of building and everything that you need for your league start. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button, boys, and to ring the bell to stay updated with my latest videos. And pretty much I'll also live stream right here on YouTube, so you guys must come tune in sometime and have some fun. Otherwise, thanks for watching, Exile, and I'll see you in the next video or live stream.